Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Are we all having a good time? During my session, feel free to use the chat. I've got the chat open. So if you got any questions or any remarks or any real life examples that you might have for yourself, feel free to put them in the chat. I've got my eye on that. Absolutely. So. With that said, welcome to my session around the hidden costs that you might have when you are rolling out collaboration solutions, when you are rolling out specific automations that you might want to do. This is not specifically focused on Microsoft 365. This is true for all aspects in life and all aspects in your daily work. So it might be useful. These are things that you might want to think about when you're rolling new applications out. Basically, that's what it is. So my name is Marijn. I've been working with mainly SharePoint for all my adult life. I've been an MVP for a number of years. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer now as well, just like Samir, who was doing the session before me. It's a lot of fun. In my daily life, I mainly help organizations set up intranets, help them with collaboration, help them with document management. So that's what I do. And if you ever heard of me before, it might be because of the podcast that I do together with Steve Dalby called Office 365 Distilled, where we talk about Office 365 governance, about user adoption, things like that. And we always end with a whiskey tasting. So we now recorded over 170 episodes. So we taste lots of different whiskeys. So let me know in the chat if you're a whiskey lover as well, and what is your favorite dram that you'd like to drink. It's always fun to see any of that happening as well. So let's get to it. This is kind of going to be a touchy-feely session. So it's not about, these are the 5 steps that you need to take in order to get this outcome. This is more about ideas around things that you might need to be aware of when you are rolling out things. Yeah, so this might help you in all aspects of your work life or your personal life. It's about hidden elements that take up more than you want. So definitely the first part is going to be a little touchy-feely. The second part of the session is going to be more focused around Microsoft 365, around specific ways to set things up to help you mitigate those issues or mitigate those costs that might arise. So why did I want to do this session? I read an article a few months ago on CMS Wire around these change management challenges that might arise when you're rolling out something. And we actually, on our Office 365 Distilled podcast, we actually did a full podcast episode around this. It's episode 126. If you want to listen to that as well, listen to Steve's takes on these things, and of course, listen to the whiskey that we tasted on that one, definitely. So, so what is this about? Well, this is all about why do we do the things that we do. This is about if we get up in the morning, why do we get up in the morning? Why do we get up at 6 or at 7 in the morning to go to work? Why do we look for a partner? Why do we want to look for good software? Why do we want to set specific things? Why do we want to do governance? All the things in life that we do, why do we do these things? Well, basically, it is because we want something out of it. We want value. If it doesn't bring us value, why do we do it? I mean, taking out the trash has value because then it's no longer stinking and rotting away in the garden shed. We want to take it out so that it can be disposed of in a good way. So that might be value for us. Same thing with governance. Why do we do governance? Well, we want value for our organization. Basically, we also want value for us so that we don't have to give the same answer 200 times or fix the same problems 50 times. And if we look at value, what is value? It is actually the benefit that it gives us minus the costs that might be incorporated with this. So this is the basic formula for value anyway. So it is what it gives us minus the costs. So if we take a very specific value, if we look at how Microsoft, for example, drives the need for Copilot value, we see that they have a number of steps. So they start with identifying pain points. They're going to measure the processes where those pain points arise. They're going to deploy Copilot, and then they're going to measure what the impact is of Copilot on that process. And if that is successful, that means that we will have benefit. So the process might be faster, it might be less people need to do something, so there's less cost involved, minus the cost of Copilot. So the 30 euros or $30 per month Copilot value, maybe the implementation cost. So that will drive the value of Copilot. It gives us better ways to do something minus the cost of the actual Copilot value. So this is a very specific example how Microsoft does that. If we take a look at things around the world, we see, for example, DOGE in the US at the Department of Government Efficiency. What was their task, or what is their task? Their task is to look for waste, fraud, and abuse within the system, get rid of those things, make things more efficient so that we have more value, so that we have our benefits of whatever it is that this specific government agency does, but we make the cost factor, we make that less, so we can drive value. Another example that I really like is Marie Kondo. I don't know if you know Marie Kondo. To be honest, I love Marie Kondo. I just did a session in Collab Days Helsinki about how to use her methodology in Microsoft 365. I will do that again at Collab Days Oslo at the beginning of December 2025. But I'm thinking of doing some more things with this as well. Marie Kondo, if you don't know her, she's a Japanese lady, and she does things around the art of cleaning. It's about cleaning up your house. It's about cleaning up your whatever. And it's all about focusing on the things that you want to keep and get rid of everything else. So this is about maximizing value. For me personally, that makes total sense. For example, with my clothes, I can just find the clothes that make me happy. I can find them much quicker. I don't need to open up my drawers, see a lot of old junk, and having to find the right clothes. I just open it up and I see all the clothes that I like, and I can easily take whatever I want. I can walk into my living room and it will be cleaned up, and I only see things that make me happy, only the things that spark joy. That is what Marie Kondo does. And we can use this functionality or this methodology into Microsoft Microsoft 365 as well. If we look at a SharePoint document library and we see 600 old files and maybe 5 files that are really important, we need to look for those files. They're hidden somewhere in the whole thing. That takes up mental space, that takes up time to find these files. Even with Copilot, Copilot will still use all those old files. It might give us the wrong answers if it still has access to old files. So if we clean those things up, we get better results. Once more, benefit minus cost. The cost is, in this case, the time it takes me to look for those documents. If we can improve that, if we can make that better, that will drive down the cost and the benefit will be there. So that drives value for me. If we look at costs at Microsoft 365, there are some easy costs that we can calculate. So remember, the value is benefit minus the cost. If we can drive down cost, that will give us more value because the benefit will still be there. So there are some easy costs that we can immediately see. So for example, this might be licenses. Everyone in the organization has an E3 license. Okay, so we know we got 500 people times the cost of an E3 license. That's an easy cost to calculate. We might be using first-party, third-party add-ons. We might use migration software. We might have a governance platform. We might use in Power Platform specific connectors to different systems. We might build our own, things like that. They're easy to calculate as well. Then we got our implementation costs, we got our consultants. So I know that I will need 3 developers, 2 days a week. I know what that cost is gonna be as well. Then what about training your users? I mean, we can easily say, I've got 500 people, I'll give them a 2-hour training. That's easy to calculate, but is that going to be effective? Is that going to be the real cost of training your users? After those 2 hours, will they know everything that they need to know, or do they still need to look things up, ask things to their colleagues, things like that? Do they know what they need to do? So basically, this is change management. When people are moved over from, excuse me, when people are moved away from their shared drives and they go to Teams, for example, what will it take for them to embrace the new way of working? Will they still email files around in attachment, or will they post that on Teams? So this might not be easy to calculate. Yeah. So basically, if you look at project management, you might have seen this triangle, you might have seen this quote before. In project management, we've got this triple constraint triangle, and it basically says you can have something, or you want something good, fast, and cheap. You can only have 2. If you want it cheap and good, it can't be fast. If you want it fast and cheap, it can't be good, basically. Yeah. So those are things that you need to take a look at. Those are constraints that you work with. So be very mindful of these things. But next to that, we also have a number of hidden costs, things that are not so easy to calculate, things that might be that might drive a lot of value, or might draw back a lot of value if we don't properly take a look at these things. And those are the things that I want to talk to you about today. So this is going to be our opportunity cost. It's going to be our cultural debt. It's going to be our technical debt. And it's going to be experience and operational costs. Now, technical debt might be something you've already heard about. Might be something, if you're more on the technical side, that might be your, but these other ones are also super important. Basically, all these things, they all have to do about change management. That is basically it. All these hidden costs, they all have to do with change management. And change management is not just getting your users to use the new software, but it's much more than that. And that is basically what I want to talk to you about. So if we look at the first topic, the first hidden cost, it is our missed opportunity cost. And for I don't know about you, but I kind of like to dabble a little bit with crypto. I think it's a lot of fun. And well, these days, Bitcoin, for example, is tremendously high. And at some point, so you see that here in the beginning, 2021, Bitcoin rose to 50K or about 50K. And I thought, ooh, that's too expensive. It can never go up from here. So I'm not buying because I think it's gonna be too expensive. And then it went back down. And I said, see, I was right. Did I buy it? No, of course not, because I thought, oh no, it's only gonna be downhill from here. And then it went back up to almost 60,000. I thought, oh no, it can't go any higher than this. And today it's about 100K. I'm still not buying it because I'm still thinking like, oh no, it can't go up from here. So this is an opportunity cost. I could have bought at 40K. I could have bought at 60K. I didn't. Now it's at 100K. I didn't do this. So I didn't make the money to if I bought at 40K, I sold at 100K, that would have left me with a 60K benefit. But I didn't do that. So I'm at a 60K loss right now because I didn't take that opportunity. Another example is if I drive to work and I stop at a coffee place to get a 10 euro cup of coffee because coffee is incredibly expensive these days. I spend 10 euros on that coffee. That is 10 euros I have spent that I don't get back. And I get value from that. I get a benefit. I get the coffee, which makes my mind better and which makes me happy to be honest. But it is 10 euros that I've spent and that I can't get back. Yeah. Now, if we turn that around and I would take my kid to get ice cream. So we both get 5 bowls of ice cream in the summertime. It is also, let's say, 10 euros or 20 euros that I spent. But that gives me time with my kid and we might bond together. We might get nice memories. We might take a picture that we can look at later. So my cost is 20 euros of ice cream. And I get some value out of it. I get some benefit out of it. But the problem here is how much is that benefit? We can't really calculate that. I mean, it's an amazing experience. We had such a good time. We bonded, we laughed, we had an ice cream, such good times, such good memories. But what is the price of that? We can't put a price on that memory. So that's difficult. Yeah. So we have that in business as well. So let's take a real example, a software example or a business example, opportunity cost. I see a lot of organizations say, okay, we want to go to Microsoft 365, but we first want to roll out this application and then these other things, we're going to do that in phase 2 or in phase 3 or in phase 4. That means, and that might be a very valid decision, but that means there is an opportunity cost. Because if we don't roll out, let's say if we don't roll out OneDrive, for example, in the beginning, we wait 6 months before we roll that out. That means that for the next 6 months, we don't have the value, we don't have the benefit of using OneDrive in our organization. So people are not using it. We have the cost, which is part of our license cost. We can't really drive that down. the cost is fixed, but we can't have the benefit of using that technology. We have to wait 6 months, and in those 6 months, those are benefits that we haven't realized. Difficult to put a price tag on that. Difficult to say, oh, well, we lost 50K because we didn't use this. It's very difficult, but it is a decision. You can't do everything at once. You can't do everything in phase one. Absolutely, that is definitely the case. But remember, this is an opportunity cost. We haven't done that. We waited 6 months. So that means we can't realize the benefit until then. So if we look at the roadmap, for example, for SharePoint, and this is an older slide, this is already a few months old. We see that life goes incredibly fast. And if we want to wait, for example, to go to SharePoint because we want to wait until Copilot is there now with the new knowledge agent, it is looking very promising. But if you say, okay, I want to wait until something is happening, we want to wait until we got approval conditions, we want to wait until we got the out-of-the-box templates, then you're missing out. You have that opportunity cost by not rolling out SharePoint until you have that functionality. So that is a missed cost that you missed benefit that you have. Yeah. So what is a solution for dealing with that opportunity cost? And this is something that me and Steve talk a lot about on our podcast, Office 365 is Built. It's called baseline governance. Basically, what we see that a lot of organizations do is a lot of organizations say, we are going to work with teams, for example. We're going to roll out teams. But what we're going to do is we first are going to think, we're going to have some workshops, we're going to have a steering committee, we're going to put all the guardrails in place, we want to make sure that we got all the processes aligned so that we can roll this out. Will take 3 or 4 months, and after 4 months you can roll out teams and you have all your guardrails in place. Those 4 months you have not realized the value of teams. So what we say is use that baseline governance. Baseline governance basically means, in the case of teams, we're going to turn on teams for everyone. We're going to give an online training around how to use it, around what we think is a good idea, how to use it. But we're not going to put all the guardrails in place. So first of all, we're going to think about 1 or 2 of the biggest issues. What are going to be the biggest things that we can think about that we need to make sure that we got in place before we roll this out? And then we're rolling it out. So instead of waiting 4 months, we might just roll it out from day one. So what we see with organizations going to Microsoft 365, instead of turning everything off and then turning it on step by step, we're just going to say, look, we're going to turn everything on and everyone has access to everything. And they might not know how to use it. That's fine. If they really want to use it, they'll figure it out. For most of the applications, let's think about 1 or 2 important things that we need to set up, and we'll let everyone use it. And then we'll monitor the use. And when we see something going horribly wrong, we might put some extra guardrails in place. There are a lot of benefits with this. The first benefit is that opportunity cost is gone because you gave value to the organization from day one. The second advantage that you have is you are gonna make guardrails based on however people are using it. You're not gonna think about edge cases that might never happen. You're gonna make sure that you have practical governance in place that everyone can immediately benefit from. So your governance is gonna be based on business value. Okay. So if there's anything you learn from this session, it's going to be baseline governance. The problem why people are doing a lot of governance in the first place is because they're afraid that business users might do something stupid and that they might F things up for the whole organization. Trust me, there's a very slim chance of that within Microsoft 365 if you do this right. Yeah. So let's get some examples. So for example, we're gonna roll out OneDrive. What are two things that we might think about first? So the first one would be people with OneDrive, they can share files with other people. Okay, do we want them to be able to share things with people externally? Do we want to make sure, do we want to give them the ability to share with anonymous users, like anyone in the world? Maybe we want to turn that off. Second thing that we might want to think about is if all our employees have a laptop that is Intune enrolled, do we only want to make sure that people can sync their files, their OneDrive files, to their company enrolled device, or do we also want to give them a chance to do that on their home PC, for example? Same thing with Teams. Basically, like the first two things I think about with Teams, if I want to roll it out, is who can create a team? Do we want everyone to be able to create a team, or just a few people? Do we want to have a little process in place where you can create a help desk ticket, for example? And second one is, what about external guests? Do we want to have external guests work on our teams? Yes or no? Basically, that's it. If we have an answer to that, we can roll it out, we can set it up, and with 10 minutes of work, we have our baseline governance, and the organization can profit from what we are doing with Teams, and they can start realizing that value. So that is super important. Leveraging the full potential of Teams and the Power Platform, it is so important to do this. It's so important to roll this out, to set this up for everyone, because then we have the actual enhanced collaboration instead of using the shared drives. We have more efficiency gains that we are going to realize, but we need to make sure that we invest in training, which is super important. If we look at missed opportunities on productivity and innovation, if we don't do this, there might be some stagnation in growth, in ideas that you might follow. Decreased productivity maybe because you might have too many options. People don't know where to put files. Loss of competitiveness, and there might be an impact on innovation as well. All right, cool. So with that said, let's go to our second one. And I said already, if you are more on the technical side, you might have already seen or know about this debt, and that's technology debt. Basically, technology debt is using old technology or still using old technology while there's something better already. Yeah. So basically, the quick fixes and the shortcuts that we do to meet deadlines and get the product out of the door. Basically, that's it. A good example of this is this one. I saw that somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it, but I thought it is super funny. This guy just wants to have a new window, but the problem is that his house is just a bunch of crap. And yeah, you can't just put a new window in there. You need to do all kinds of other things before it is actually working. Another example that I saw from Martina Grom half a year ago, she put this on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever this is. I thought this was very funny. We're all talking about AI. We're all talking about how AI is going to change the world, while people in a hotel actually use a reservation system that still looks like Windows 3.1. That looks like very old school stuff. So yeah, there's some technical debt. I mean, I don't see a Copilot benefiting this person right now. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that this reservation system is up to date, and then we can add more things to it. So if we look at technical debt, there is also some maintenance cost involved, of course. So this might be old legacy platforms that we still need to use. For example, think about banks. A lot of big banks are still running on a COBOL code, which is, I don't know, 40 years old, and they just don't want to touch it because it still runs. Yeah, so that is legacy. It's super hard to find people that can still code in COBOL anymore. I mean, I had COBOL 1 year when I was studying. It is incredibly cumbersome to write. It's silly, but that's what it is. That's their legacy platform. And they have a really big maintenance cost because it's technical debt, but they're too afraid to move it to a newer solution. This also might be shadow IT that you're using. I mean, I know a lot of organizations that are still using Dropbox, that are still using WeTransfer to share files with each other. So those also have a cost. Yeah. It can also be every customization that you've ever done. So let's talk about Power Automate, for example, every connection that you made to another system, every connector that you've built. Well, every once in a while, you need to take a look at that connector and see, is this still working as we want? Or is there a better version? Is there maybe an out-of-the-box version that has come out? Do we want to use that version? Do we want to use our version? So there are a lot of things that you might want to think about when you're dealing with this. So, good. Let's look at some scenarios. Yeah, and this is going to be like a bunch of scenarios here. So, for example, a project that is not very clear about the requirements and about the definitions of what you need. And then when your project has rolled out, when it goes live into production, it still requires change. It still requires rework because there are just some basic fundamental requirements missing or not working properly. It might be poor style. It might be that your code doesn't have good comments in there, or maybe you've set up hardware racks without proper markings, so you don't know what all those cables do. It's just not looking very good. So if you want to change something, it needs a lot of thought, it needs a lot of schematics, it needs a lot of things. So that is definitely a problem as well. It might be that you haven't tested it enough. I mean, you might have tested it, but have you given it to a user, to an end user to test it as well? Might be difficult. Maybe you haven't configured it well enough, so it's not working as well as it could be. It might be that you haven't documented it well enough. It might be that you've gone on to another project, support needs to take over whatever you build, but they don't know what is happening. They don't know what's going wrong because there is not good enough documentation. I've been in those places where I had to take over workflows from somebody else and I just couldn't understand what was going on because there was no documentation. All right. What about bad collaboration? If people in different projects or different departments are not working well enough with each other, there is going to be problems. There's going to be hidden debt. There's going to be problems that are going to arise because it's not working as well as could be. What about pressure from the business? Well, we actually need this yesterday. Yeah, but it's not ready. That doesn't matter. Just give it to us and we'll just run with it. Yeah, but it's not working ready. It's not working well. So that might give you problems. How many times, now be honest, how many times have you put something into production that you knew wasn't ready? How many times have you built something as a proof of concept and business said, yeah, that's fine, we'll take it and we'll put it into production? I know you've done it. I've done this. You've done this as well. Build a POC and business says, yep, let's put it into production. Anyway, delays in updates. Yeah, we actually need to update this because it's not running smoothly. Yeah, we don't have the time right now. We'll do it another time. Yeah, it's not really helpful, right? What about bugs? Well, this keeps effing up. Oh, well, we need time, we need effort. to look at this, to document this, to do something with that, right? What about non-modular code? What about code that just runs in its own block and it's not working with other pieces of code? So every time you need to change something, you need to write that whole block, and you can't just pick and choose the things that you want to choose, that you want to change. Right. So what is going to be a solution for this? Is agile gonna be the solution? A lot of times I hear companies yell, yes, agile is gonna change all that. Well, not always. We can do things in an agile way without really being agile. I mean, we might do stand-up meetings every day, but it's not because you're doing a stand-up meeting every day in the morning that you're actually working in an agile way. Yeah, maybe if you want to do agile, you've got sprint deadlines. Maybe you're focusing more on that sprint deadline than really focusing on, am I going to deliver a good solution? Yeah. So if you're going to build something and you're just going to say, I'm just going to cut a little corner here so I can meet that sprint deadline, in the next sprint, are you gonna make sure that that little corner that you cut off is gonna be fixed, or is that gonna stay in there? That's technical debt. Yeah, right. So, what is a solution? Could be the continuous improvement mindset. And the continuous improvement mindset is something like, for example, Facebook. So if you look at Facebook back in the day, their motto was, we move fast and we break things. Yeah. So that means we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to move very fast. We're going to make changes. And because we want to move that fast, sometimes things are going to break. Yeah. So don't worry, if things break, we're gonna fix them as soon as possible, but be aware that we might break things. Yeah. Now, in your organization, that might not be an option. In your organization, you might say, well, we don't want to break things. We want to make sure that everything runs really, really stable. Otherwise, people are gonna be annoyed. But that means that you can't go that fast. So implement that mindset of continuous improvement. Just take existing bits and try to improve them day by day or week by week. Just take a look at these things and try to make sure, okay, how can we make them less error prone? How can we make them faster? How can we update these processes? You can do that by technology audits. You can do that with proactive problem solving, not taking a look at what is already going wrong, but proactively looking for a better solution. Because basically, these things are not technology issues, these are business problems. Because IT is a service to the business. Basically, IT is there to help the business perform, to help the organization shine. That's what we need to do. But of course, we are, as an IT, in charge of all the technology bits. So that means that we need to make sure that we look at the cost to make things work better. Because the business is changing, we as IT, we need to change, we need to adapt, we need to make sure that everything works as smooth as possible. How do we do that? Well, as a business, we need to work with people, as IT, we need to work with people from the business. We need to grab some subject matter experts, a person in finance, a person in HR, a person in whatever, that is using our process, that is using our automation, that is using our collaboration solution. And we need to take a look together with them to see how does this work? How can we improve this? Because they are the ones using it day by day, and they might give us a lot of really good feedback around this. And if we got those cross-functional teams, so IT together with the business, we can prepare a business case. We can say, you know what, this is not running as smooth as we want. We might want to make it smoother. You can make sure that you get some money, some budget for that to make this run in a better way. So very important. All right, cool. McKinsey is one of the big consultancy companies. They have an operating model. If you want to reduce this technology debt within your organization, this might be something that you want to work with. I'll just leave that there. You can just look that up. You will find this if you Google this as well. So next up, we got culture debt. So we got technical debt, meaning we've got old systems that are not performing as well as they could, or that we need to work around to make them work. What about culture debt? Culture debt basically is the answer that you get on a question like, why are you doing this? Well, because we've always done it this way. Basically, that's it. It's old ways of thinking, old processes that you haven't improved just because you're doing this all day long for many, many years. You're not improving this. So this is all about how we work together. This is about how we communicate. The problem here is we don't get the innovation that we want. We don't drive down that cost. We're not getting the right people. People might join the company. They'll look at, oh shit, you're still working on paper. I don't want to work here anymore because this is too cumbersome. This is stupid. They might want to, they might leave. Yeah. So you're missing value that you might get otherwise. If we look at hierarchies within organizations, because this is very hierarchy driven, you see that you've got different ways of working within the organizations. I found the one from Microsoft very funny because they are kind of true as well, that all the different teams are just looking at each other. They're not talking to each other. So there's a lot of innovation cost that is missed. There's a lot of culture that is not going well. So one of the things that we can do with culture debt is we can embrace AI because they all say, like, if you don't do this, you will get left behind. Your job will be taken by AI. Well, it will be taken by someone who uses AI. Another example that you probably have seen before is this one. Like somebody invents the wheel and people are going like, no, well, no, I don't want to use that new invention. We are too busy. We can't work with this. Okay. Yeah. The last one I want to talk about is our experience cost. And experience cost is we'll have a new internet, and then the new internet comes, and then everyone goes like, yeah, it's not nice. It doesn't look very well. It's overpromised, underdelivered. You lose credibility. So people next time when they want to update something, they won't come to you. They'll look at somebody else. They'll maybe go look for outside consultancy, things like that. How you can solve this is definitely get those people from the business in your project so that you know what they really want, because they might tell you what they want, but that might not be what they actually want. So get them involved from the start. Some examples about experience cost might be a SharePoint site that doesn't work very well, Teams files that have the wrong metadata, a Power App that has a bad UI. Power Automate Designer. For me, Power Automate Designer is a perfect example of a poor experience. It is way too complicated. As a SharePoint person, personally, I hate Power Automate because it is not user-friendly. Yeah, so even toilets at conferences might be a bad experience because we have 500 males and 20 females maybe, so there's a long line there. Well, it doesn't work. So what might be some solutions for this? It might be user feedback that you want to capture very early on. You might want to do things very incremental, and you want to keep driving improvements. That's also how Microsoft works, for example, with the rollout of their new Outlook application, for example. That is exactly what is happening here. They are building the minimum viable product, and then they're going to improve with incremental upgrades because they get that feedback. Oh, we want this functionality. Okay, we'll put that in. Oh, we want this functionality. Okay, we'll put that in. So in the end result is something that people actually need and people actually want, and not something that you think that they might want. So that is definitely something important. And I see that I'm running out of time, but I just need 2 more minutes. to talk about operational costs. Operational cost is your mind. You have too many things on your plate that you're still thinking about, that you still need to do at some point. You might have a task list somewhere, but they're all taking up mental capacity. You can't focus on the things that you really need to do right now because there are so many things that you're also thinking about that at some point you still need to do as well. Yeah. One of the things that you can do here is break things up in t-shirt sizes. Is this a small, a medium, a large, or an extra large problem? Or you can take a look at how Marie Kondo does this, like, this thing that I need to do, is this going to make me happy? If it's not going to make me happy, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to delegate this. So one of the things that we can solve all these issues is using the maturity model. If you haven't looked at maturity models for Microsoft 365, this is definitely something that you need to take a look at. There's a lot of information available. You actually do some kind of questionnaire to see where you are right now, and then you can define where you want to go. So, for example, if we take a look at the one for Copilot for Microsoft 365, there are a few levels where you might be today, and you might want to look at where you want to go, depending on ROI, depending on the business benefit. Take a look at that. How can you see where you are? Take a look at your adoption score in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. You might want to do a fit gap analysis. Where are we today? Where do we want to be? And how are we going to get there? Communicate those things, share your progress, super important. And then as a last bit, some strategies for your cost management. User engagement is super important. Set up your training programs, get that business involved in the way you work, and try to work with use cases. Of course, pay off your debts, pay off your culture debt, your technical debt, your opportunity cost, and that way you can maximize your productivity, have a good cost management, and recognize those hidden costs. With that said, 2 minutes overtime, I think that's still reasonable. I think that's still good. So please rate my session. If you have any questions, feel free to connect with me either here, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat next. And let me know. Let me know what examples you have in your organization of hidden costs. And yeah, let me know how you're mitigating those. And with that said, thank you so much.